Hello, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, good evening. Today I wanted to just share some immaculate self-care ideas that I feel would be beneficial right now during this time, and always really. But I'm someone who has been through a tremendous amount of bodily stress. And so for me, I've had to learn an immaculate self-care system. And I'm not the best even now, but I do my best to utilize tools that will help me to stay grounded and to stay in my center. And so I really wanted to speak to these today because I feel like we could all benefit from these ideas right now. Sometimes it seems sort of scary to take care of ourselves when we're triggered or we're triggered into PTSD. And right now, what I'm witnessing in the world is that everyone is in fight or flight mode, and anyone that's in a disaster area or experiencing high levels of distress due to any number of things, but definitely because of the space weather and the hurricanes and the floods and the fires and the earthquakes. So we have many things going on, but they all generally create a stressor on the central nervous system. And especially with the space weather that's happening right now, there's a pressure coming from the solar flares that is causing an intense pressure, and people are having really massive pressure headaches and things of that nature. So I just really wanted to talk actually about the central nervous system predominantly, because when we can get our brain and our spinal cord and our there's like the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, so both are being affected, and what we have is like a fight or flight response. But even if we don't have that, we can have free-floating anxiety. We can have all kinds of things showing up for us that we don't have tools necessarily to manage. So I happen to have some tools I can share, and maybe it's just really like reminders of what you guys already know. But I feel like this is a good discussion point today, because I feel like a lot of us could use support right now, and I just want to tell everybody that I love you, and I am here to talk about these things because I've spent a lot of time curing my PTSD, which is possible, removing viruses out of my body, curing myself from cancer. I've had a lot of different life-threatening situations happen with me, and I've survived them all, and I am thriving, and I want to speak to that. And also, I have a friend who really supported me a few years ago. Her name is Sean Neff, and she literally saved my life. In 2014, my life was flickering out, and I literally didn't have any tools to keep myself alive. And she flew me from Maui to Michigan, and we went into a 10-day triage. And during that time, we used homeopathic cell salts and homeopathic remedies and fresh juicing and things that would bring my body back. I had a lot of virus stuff going on with me at that time, and some really intense things happening. So my organs were failing. They were shutting down, and I didn't really have a choice but to put myself into triage. So I did that. And so I just want to thank her for saving my life. And of course, I saved my own life on many levels all the time. But had it not been for her and her wealth of knowledge around these things, I probably wouldn't have made it. So I'm really grateful to her. She has the Lead Your Legacy program, and ShawnNeff.com, ShawnNeff.com. So if you guys are curious about her, please look her up. But for now, I would, because I love her, and she's one of my closest, dearest friends, and I deeply, deeply honor her and respect her for helping me through that. And now she helps leaders, and thrive and not get burnt out. She's amazing. So, on to the subject matter. And some of this I learned from her, and some of this I've gathered over the years. So it's a combination of everything that I've sort of learned. And it's, I'm going to give you what I can right now. This is just the beginning of a, tools that we can share and talk about, really, and discuss. So it's mapping our own immaculate self-care system is what I really want to speak to. So first things first, it's really about asking questions of ourselves, right? Asking the questions, what are our immediate needs? Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Or am I tired? So that's something I learned a long time ago. It's called HALT. And basically what I can do in that moment is halt, stop doing whatever I'm doing, and take care of my basic needs. And that's hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Those are the 4 things that can set us into a PTSD reaction. So, there's all kinds of factors that are involved in post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't like to call it a disorder, actually, post-traumatic stress. But it's really continuing traumatic stress. And right now, what we're experiencing on the planet is a continual input of stress. And so I think it's really important to speak to that and to say that we have tools that we can utilize in any moment to help ourselves. So these are very practical applications of things. These are practical ways to apply tools that we have that may be available to us in our environment that we can utilize to calm ourselves down or to bring ourselves back into balance. So when was the last time I was in nature, away from a cell phone? Really basic, simple stuff. Or, barefoot on the ground. So that's a big one for me. Like, I need to get my feet on the ground. If I feel ungrounded, if I'm feeling anxious, or I wake up feeling bombarded by electromagnetic frequencies, which is another thing that I personally deal with, I need to go ground with the earth. And when I do that, all the energy rushes out of my body. Gaia just takes it and absorbs it. And then I am able to reset my system on a magnetic electric level. So that piece for me is a really big piece of grounding. So am I grounded? Am I grounded right now? What's happening, right? Next question I would ask myself is, when was the last time I sat and did absolutely nothing? Nothing at all. Like with a cat on my lap, can't move, nothing. Where I am literally almost forced to relax. Like it doesn't happen in my world, hardly ever. So I have to make a point of allowing myself to relax. Because a lot of us, I believe, don't allow us to relax. Let's see. Have I exercised? Have I done anything to exercise to, increase my heart rate, to bring sweat on, have I gone to a sauna? Have I sweat? Is there anything I've done to circulate my blood, right? Because that in and of itself helps with the movement of toxins. And if we're not doing that for ourselves, we are, me personally, the toxins build up in my system, and then I, have like gut reactions and, gut physical. I have a camel body, which so it doesn't know, it just stores food. It doesn't know to let go of it as easily. So I have to be really consciously aware of my digestive system. So breathing techniques. Have I been breathing? A lot of people hold their breath, especially in times of stress. So allowing myself to breathe and to, you know, take a pause at the bottom of the breath, and then breathe in and take a pause at the top of the breath, and then let it out. And do that as much as I need to in order to bring myself back into a state of a centered state. So that's another thing that I feel is incredibly important, is we're not breathing, and we need to breathe. And we need to remind ourselves to breathe. And the last thing we want to do when we're stressed is go into immaculate self-care and to really nourish ourselves. That should be our natural instinct, actually. But unfortunately, it's not our natural instinct. And so what ends up happening is we go into a reverse of that, which is to go into eating sugar, or, you know, trying to fix that symptom, trying to alleviate the symptom and self-medicate, right? Rather than dropping in and asking our bodies what we need. Like, what is it that I actually need right now? Do I need to cry? What do I need to release? So a lot of times when we get to that place, we're in a place of pressure buildup, right? So our central nervous system is maxed out and we can't handle any more input. So we're having a sensory overload experience where we're completely saturated, and we can't, and our fight or flight response then, you know, goes off. So, and we're triggered, right? So in order to alleviate all of that, we need to give ourselves these little reminders like, bing, are you breathing? Okay, take a step back. Let's breathe. Okay, what's next? Let me get in my center really quick. What's happening? What's happening? Observe what's going on around me. Pay attention. Okay, I'm not in any harm's way. Good. What is the next thing that my body needs? And really checking in and asking what it is our bodies are asking for, and listening to our body's intelligence. Our heart's intelligence will tell us every single time what it is that we need. Okay? And the other thing is, if those messages are all messed up, you know, like if we're having the craving for sugar, we know something's not necessarily in alignment, because if we're going to sugar, that means we're not dealing with an emotion, probably, right? And that's not logical. We don't think about that in the moment, but it's usually because we don't want to deal with what's coming up. And we need to be brave and to love ourselves and embrace whatever that is. And that's self-love, but that's a really tough thing for people to do for themselves. And part of that is they're not actually listening to their inner child. And their inner child is like screaming and acting out and doing all these crazy things, and then, you know, hurting other people, and simply because we're not listening to them, you know? So that, to me, is a huge piece. Have I checked in with my inner child? Have I asked her what it is that she needs right now, you know? And that, for me, is a huge piece. I've been working with my inner child since I was in my mid-20s, so maybe about 22, 23 years since I got sober, and whew, that makes a huge difference in the way that my day goes. Like, if I check in with her and I make sure that her needs are met and that she feels safe, I'm likely to have a better day. I'm likely to be present and available to her, to ask her what she actually needs in any given moment, and to really check in with her and allow her to be in my life, you know. A lot of times when an inner child is reacting, we could say the childish ego, the negative ego, whatever we want to call it, when that energy is reacting, it's because we're not listening and we're not paying attention to her, him. And there's a lot of messages there. There's a lot of wisdom there. There's so much that the inner child can share with you that can make such a tremendous difference in your life. Like, wow, amazing. So it's really important to listen to the inner child and ask, you know, what is it that's going on? So, inner child, What are you experiencing this moment? So what is my emotional pain body experiencing in this moment, right? What is it that my body, my emotions are creating within my pain body? Like, my pain body is outside of my physical body, but it can bleed into the physical body and create physical pain and also emotional pain. So checking in and saying, identifying what are the emotions that I'm experiencing right now. And you can map your experience based on this. You can make a chart. You can create these charts and look at them and be like, where am I on this chart? You know, there's all these different levels of emotions that we have. And if we can identify and be fully present to our thought forms and our emotions, then we can kind of adjust ourselves accordingly so that we're not putting ourselves in jeopardy to be triggered even further. So we can really check in with ourselves, like hand on the heart. What is happening with me right now? What is going on? What am I experiencing? Like checking in, you know? And am I feeling free-floating anxiety? Do I know where this is coming from, right? Anxious, being anxious. Overwhelmed. Do I feel completely overwhelmed and like have no direction at this moment in time? What do I do? You know, breathe. Ground. Feel my feet. Where am I? Okay, I'm not in any danger, you know? A lot of this boils down to being, feeling emotionally safe. Am I triggered in this moment? Take a step back, breathe, check in with myself. Why am I being triggered by this? What is coming up for me? Am I angry about it? Am I angry in general? Like, what's boiling up in me that wants to be released, right? Am I sad? Why am I sad? Am I allowing myself to feel my authentic sadness without letting it run through, you know, the gamut of other, you know, crazy ungrounded emotions? Or am I really honoring my sadness? Like, what is it that I'm actually feeling right now? And allowing myself to really move that energy through and release it and allow it to be what it is. That's a big one. We don't allow ourselves to actually have our feelings, and we try to push them aside or cut them off or say, oh no, I just need to be spiritual right now. Fuck that. Seriously, like, excuse my French, but we need to embrace our emotions, because if we allow them to run amok, they wreak havoc on our physical body, and then our central nervous system gets maxed out, and then we don't have any resources or reserves left. Our minerals get depleted, and then we don't have the reserves that we need to function normally, right? So these are all things that I learned when I went through my process of the Core Health Rebuild program from Sean Neff. Just in my own experience of it, these are the things that I discovered and I realized were happening to me. And now I have the opportunity and the ability to change them in any given moment so that I don't go into a spin out unnecessarily. Okay? So, am I feeling ungrounded? What do I need to do to feel grounded in this moment? Do I need to take a bath? Do I need to drink some tea? Do I need to go out on the earth and lay on the earth until I feel better? Which really helps, actually. Sometimes we can't do that if it's snowing or whatever, but right now it's an opportunity and a good time to really balance and give ourselves to the earth. And she needs our, you know, we need her, she needs us. We need to honor that relationship with Gaia. Checked out. This is another one. Am I disassociating? Am I checking out because I'm so tired or I'm so maxed out or I've pushed myself to the edge, right? I'm a Pitta Vata. So those are in dispositions in Ayurvedic medicine. This is another factor. I have fire. Pitta is fire and Vata is air. And air is sort of wiry and fast moving and thinking fast and like a butterfly or like a hummingbird. Okay. and their exoskeleton is usually tall and skinny, and they move really fast and they think really fast. And then I'm Pitta first, though, predominantly, which is like fire element. So I burn myself to the edge. I go as far as I can possibly go, and then I crash, right? So what I've learned to do is go with the ebbs and the flows of my body and really tap in and tune into where I am in any given moment, so that I'm not pushing myself to my edge and then my body's giving out on me, right? So that's a big one. And then there's Kapha in the Ayurvedic dispositions, which is earth, which is slower. Oh, by the way, the Pitta exoskeleton is strong and, big boned, kind of like me, just like thick, big boned, strong, vital, German, or, not necessarily German, but, strong, big. And then Kapha is slower and drinks tea, and, Pittas need cooling things. Kapha and Vata need warming things. So there's all different aspects and information about these three doshas online if you want to look it up under Ayurveda. But it's good to know what your disposition is, so that you can really tap in any given moment and bring yourself back into adjust yourself accordingly to where you are at any given moment. And it really helps with eating foods. Like, I need cucumbers, for example, to cool my body down, and coconut oil. And so my body doesn't necessarily like sesame oil, but it can handle toasted sesame oil. So that, it's like that. There's all these different things that really help my body to feel more balanced and more comfortable. And my central nervous system is all tied into that. So back to the central nervous system, if we're not honoring our central nervous system, which is pretty much running the show, it's not totally running the show. Obviously, everything works together, but it's a big part of our physical functioning. And when that is maxed out, which it's being bombarded constantly with wireless technologies, radio frequencies, ELFs, extremely low frequencies, EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. So there's all these frequencies just bombarding us every single day. And then we have space weather, and the radioactive radiation, and just all kinds of things happening in the world. And people. Yeah, so there's people too. We're being affected by our interactions and relationships with others, and how we move through a specific situation, right? So I just invite you to be fully present to helping others as much, and being in service to others rather than in service to self. And the one way that we can do that is by being fully in our self-care system and being in immaculate self-care, because then our cup runneth over. Then we have plenty to give. Then we have plenty to share, right? So next on the checklist of where I am in my experience, if I am dissociating, how do I bring myself back into the present moment? What I do is I feel my feet. I immediately check in. Wait, where did I go? I don't really disassociate anymore, but when I used to, I learned that if I feel my feet and I feel where I am in the room, and I become fully present in the now moment as to where I am in any given moment, then it gives me the opportunity to witness what's really going on around me physically, and I can tap into the peace within the space, which sometimes we're not in a place of peace, and there's chaos going on all around us. So where do we go? We go into the eye of the hurricane. Not to be, but we do. We literally go into the center of stillness within when all this chaos is happening around us. And we find our center of stillness that is always there and always present. So am I in PTSD, right? Am I experiencing a trigger that is a post-traumatic stress trigger that is sending me into a spin? What is the core trauma there that is being re-triggered in me? And how can I alleviate that? What can I do for myself in this moment? How can I love myself through this moment and really understand what's happening within me? Because everything is happening all around us all the time. It's how we respond to any given stimuli that makes the difference, right? So it's about how do we go about helping ourselves and loving ourselves through these triggers and bringing ourselves back into our power, really. Am I feeling fear? Is that fear real? What is the fear that's coming up? Can I ask myself what this fear is? And is it irrational fear? Is it true, real fear? What kind of fear is it? And is it a manufactured fear that's been directed towards me? Or is it actually a justified fear that I'm experiencing? And there are justified fears, obviously, and we have them. But it can also be false evidence appearing real, right? And so for me, that's a big one. Like, I don't really have fearful reactions anymore. I get irritated and, frustrated, but I don't tend to go into fear because in my experience, fear isn't real, and it's manufactured and it's directed usually. So it's created and manufactured. So a lot of this world that we live in is, in my opinion, is manufactured around us, and the truth of who we are and the reality of the existence that we are living in is much different than what we are being presented with. And so it's our job to come into our full right relations with ourselves and to really understand where we are in any given moment and check in and really ground into the present moment fully and completely, so much so that nothing else can influence us. We may be having visions and seeing all kinds of things, but the truth of who we are and where we are, and just honoring what we're seeing too, because a lot of us can see through the veil. A lot of us are very empathic and can feel everyone else's stuff. So how do we go about having tools to shield ourselves, not as a defensive mechanism, but as this is my personal space, this is my bubble, right? This is the bubble in which I live in this moment, and this is my sacred bubble, right? And that bubble is important because when we have a sacred bubble that we've created for ourselves, we can be, like I said before, the cup runneth over, and we can give. There's more for us to give when we take care of ourselves and we're in extreme immaculate self-care, right? So another question to ask ourselves in the moment where we're trying to figure out and experience what is this that I'm experiencing in this moment is, am I unmotivated? Why am I unmotivated? Am I shut down? Like, what is causing this in me? What's causing me to not be able to think straight? Is it a physical thing that's happening with me? Or is it an emotional thing that's happening with me? Is it a mental thing that's happening with me? Or is it a spiritual thing that's happening with me? 4 different categories of situations within that thing just alone, where if we're feeling unmotivated, paralyzed, can't think, and we're just like can't seem to find our way, there's 4 different factors that could be going on. One is physically. Is my physical body having a moment where it can't communicate? Like, our adrenals fatigue, and so what can happen is our adrenals will not be communicating with our hypothalamus gland, our pituitary glands, and we'll have sort of a disconnect in terms of the communication. That comes from adrenal fatigue, but also heavy amounts of stress, and the amount of stress that we're under as a population, the human population right now, is profound. And none of us have ever experienced this level of stress. I mean, in this incarnation, in this world that we're living in, it's just amping. So how can we go about bringing ourselves back down in, right? And allowing ourselves the opportunities that we need to be able to move forward and to function and flow with grace within this situation. So sometimes I'm paralyzed with fear, let's say. I'm not anymore, but I used to get this situation where I was paralyzed with fear. And what that really was I had something in my field. And so I would check in and be like, is this mine? You know, what is this energy that I'm experiencing? You know, and a lot of times it's actually not even our energy that we're experiencing, and there's something in our field that is causing the energy to be manipulated or contained. So being able to put up our shield, breathe in light, create a golden sphere of light and a rainbow sphere of light around that, and to be able to bring ourselves back and clear, cut any cords and cut, you know, energetically, just be responsible for our energetic matrix, right? So that's spiritually. So the other part of that is the physical, where our bodies might not be communicating with our brain. And that again comes back to the central nervous system. And the fact that that's happening probably means that we're depleted in our minerals, right? So when we're depleted in our minerals, there's no reserves. There's no place for us to go, right? So, you know, checking in with ourselves, like, I'm probably depleted in minerals. What do I do about it? Here's some tools for that, and we'll get to that. But I just want to go through the checklist of the questions we can ask ourselves so we can really check in and know what is going on with us in any given moment, and being able to find the tools appropriate to associate with those moments in time. So I said mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. I think I covered all of that in terms of being unmotivated and not being able to think, or being paralyzed, or having adrenal fatigue. So all of those are related in that our body is shutting down and it's sending us that message, right? And so there are tools for us to utilize for that. How can I take action in this moment to help myself? That's a big one. How can I take action in this moment to help myself alleviate whatever this symptom is, or whatever this experience is that I'm having, to bring myself back to center and to be able to really utilize and make myself available to this wisdom that is within me, right? So here are some solutions. These are things we probably have in our environment already, that we sometimes, when we're in that place where we can't think, or we're shut down, or we're in fear, or we're triggered, we forget. We literally forget that we have these tools. So this is an opportunity for us. If we map out our self-care system, we can put up, you know, when I'm angry, this is what I do. When I'm triggered, this is what I do. I take a deep breath, you know, so that we're really paying attention. And we can literally write it down and leave it for ourselves somewhere where we can see it, so that we're like, okay, that's right, I'm in PTSD right now. What do I need to do? I need to go ground on the earth. Okay, I need to breathe. Number 2, I need to drink some water. Dehydration is a huge aspect of being in PTSD. When we're either dehydrated, run down, or we're maxed out, or we've pushed ourselves too far and we don't have any reserves left, that's when we haven't been drinking water, right? So dehydration, breathing, really simple stuff, grounding with the earth, releasing all those energies down into Gaia. She can handle it. Seriously, she can handle all of this. So allowing those energies to work with you and bringing our magnetic, vibrational, piezoelectric balance back online. I don't know how to say it, but that's how I experience it, is to bring all of those things back into balance. So earth, air, fire, water, all those elementals. And that's what we're dealing with right now, right? We're dealing with all the elements sort of clashing with each other. Manipulated or not, that's what's happening. And so those elements within us are being triggered, right? Our emotions are being triggered. Our anxiousness is being triggered. Our fire is being triggered. There's a lot of things going on that we're like, it's boiling up in us. So what do we do to bring that down? To bring that back down to a place where we can be in our center, so that our cup runneth over, so that we have that available to us in any given moment to give and to share, to help others. Because it's going to be like this for a minute. We're going to need to help others. and not be so selfish. But if we're not taking care of ourselves first, like putting on the mask in the plane, you know, put on the air mask first before you put on your kid, there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because we can't help anybody else if we haven't helped ourselves first. So, immaculate self-care, yeah? So here are the solutions that I have for myself. Simple. What essential oils, tools do I have available to me right now that I can bring an immediate shift into my reality? The 3 companies that I work with in terms of essential oils: doTERRA, Young Living, and Floracopia. Those are the 3 companies that I feel have integrity, and they have therapeutic grade oils available, and some are ingestible. So for me, I need them to be ingestible because I need immediate relief, immediate response. For me, I will go to frankincense almost immediately every time to calm my nervous system down. It's incredible for that, and I can ingest the frankincense from doTERRA, so I use that one. Rescue Remedy is another one that is really, really powerful in any given moment. Oh, by the way, frankincense also is like a super high vibrational oil, right? Super high vibrational thing. And so I utilize that vibration also to bring me back into balance because I resonate with frankincense. And I would say most of us do, because it's a holy structure. It feels holy to me. I don't know how, divine, there you go. I don't want to make it about any religious anything. I'm just saying the vibration of it is a pure vibration, frankincense. So it's important to have a high quality frankincense available to us. Rescue Remedy is another really powerful thing for me that I use. There's a spray, you can just spray it right in your mouth. And you're like, boom, you're in. Hydrosols. I have helichrysum hydrosol and rose water and neroli water that I blend together, and I use it as a facial mist, but I use it as a clearing spray, right? And rose spray is a really, really powerful way to bring our vibration back into center. It's the rose ray. Yeah, it's the highest vibrational flower on the planet, supposedly, and it really works. Okay? So any kind of spray, that clearing spray, anything like that, that's an immediate solution. You know, we have these tools available to us. We've all bought this stuff. We all have it, right? And if we don't, it's easy to get. It's readily available in most countries now. I mean, I've been traveling the world and I've been able to get it everywhere I go. So it is possible, you know. Warm lemon water. So this is another one that's like super interesting. Most people drink it in the morning to, you know, to empty out their bowels. So the thing about doing that is, one, it alkalizes your system almost immediately, and two, it starts to release the toxins. So what you may be experiencing is a toxic buildup, and that's why you can't think, and your brain is sort of foggy. So it gives an opportunity for your body to start functioning again and coming back into alignment and flushing out the toxins. So really drinking lots of water and flushing toxins. Really important. Celery juice, right? I don't know why, but this particular one seems to be really important. And I was asking this morning, like, what is it that I'm going to share about this self-care system? Celery juice came up really strongly. So there's also celery seed available. There's lots of ways that celery comes, but celery juice and celery seed seem to be the two that are beneficial in situations like this, in restoring your nervous system for whatever reason. I don't know if it's written anywhere, but this is just... And then, of course, breathing. Taking a moment, which I already talked about, but I'm going to do it again because I'm super, like, trying to get the information out, right? So just taking a moment to breathe deep into the belly. And at the bottom of the exhale, just allowing some space there. And then when you naturally begin to breathe in again, Inhaling and bringing in as much of that, as much oxygen into your body as you possibly can, and then holding it at the top again, and then pushing it out. So that is you can do that many, many times until you find yourself in a place of your body starts to settle down, right? Ask vitamin C. Vitamin C. You can take a lot of vitamin C. Like, you can dose yourself with vitamin C, and it makes a huge difference with your sleeping patterns. If you have insomnia, just bringing your body back into balance. Vitamin C ascorbic acid is a very powerful tool for people who have adrenal fatigue and are experiencing insomnia, which right now everybody can barely sleep. Like, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of free floating anxiety. So vitamin C is a really good way to dump a bunch of mineral-y energy into our bodies, and to help with that process of bringing you back into balance. So there is, there are certain foods that you can, I didn't actually make a list of the foods, but there are certain foods that can calm your nervous system. One is coconut oil, eating spoonfuls of coconut oil, aloe juice. Anything that will hydrate you is really important rather than dehydrate you. And also grounding. So like yams or sweet potatoes are really good. But however, staying away from too much starch, because starch is inflammatory and will cause inflammation. So staying in the foods that don't inflame. So staying away from flour, wheat, sugar, anything processed, right? And just really paying attention to what kind of processed food we're putting in our bodies, and maybe going towards whole foods, whole plant-based foods. And some of us need meat, but being really available for what type of protein we're putting in our bodies, because fats are actually incredibly important in terms of our physical health. And so avocados, for example, olives, green olives, things that have oils in them that, again, hydrates our body and makes things function and flow smoothly. So those are really key pieces for food. So maybe, looking up online foods that hydrate, and whole foods like vegetables, things that will bring us back into balance. So just, looking that up. Avocado. Jack, you're so cute. Okay. So what minerals am I depleted in? Now, there's no real way for us to know what minerals we're depleted in unless we body muscle test them, okay? So there's 12 tissue cell salts that are key and vital to our experience as a human. And so those 12 tissue cell salts, if we don't have them and we're depleted, we have no reserve and no foundation in which to, and if we have any sort of virus like Epstein-Barr, or HPV, or mono, or any of those viruses running through our bodies, and we don't know about it necessarily, our bodies are fighting against it. Our bodies are fighting against themselves just to survive. Excuse me. So, what minerals am I depleted in? You can do muscle testing, but what I recommend you do, and I'm going to put a link in the comment section for this PDF for 12 tissue cell salts, and it shows the different properties of each cell salt, what they are, and how they affect the system. But for example, for the central nervous system specifically, kali sulf and calc phos are incredibly important. So that's calcium phosphate and potassium sulfate. I think it's sulfate or sulfide. Those are just two examples of central nervous system homeopathic remedies that you can buy pretty cheap in the store. Those little things, you put them in your mouth, that will give immediate response and immediate results. However, if you want to do a core health rebuild system, rebuild your entire system, that's on another level, and that requires a much deeper commitment. But in terms of emergency relief, it might be really beneficial to just go to a health food store that has homeopathic remedies, you know, there, and muscle test them and find out which ones your body really needs, okay? That is a huge piece for me. That's ginormous, okay? That saves my life, literally. Like, if it wasn't for homeopathics, Sean Neff, and my awareness around Ayurvedic, you know, Ayurvedic doshas and crystals and vibrational medicine, I wouldn't be here right now. But I've studied and I've learned, and I'm a student of life, and I just keep asking questions. That's what I've done. Is I just, every time something is going on, I just tune in and I see what's happening and I go into the adjustment. Because the universe is actually always seeking to balance the charges, right? So that's a really important piece to remember. So back to solutions. Foot baths. If you don't have access to a bathtub, if you do, a whole body bath is definitely awesome, right? So first things first, Epsom salts. You can buy them pretty cheap in the drugstore. Or magnesium salts if you can get them, and really both, because Epsom salts actually detox, whereas magnesium salts also add magnesium to your body. Now, magnesium is one of the main central nervous system minerals that we need to function. And Natural Calm is a brand in America anyway that is like, you know, used for AB Calm as well. Those are both magnesium powders that you can purchase to utilize for that to ingest, but also magnesium flakes and magnesium salts for the bathtub is another way for your body to absorb magnesium. Okay, so taking salt baths. If you don't have a bathtub, a shower, but you have a bucket, you can do foot bath. And here are the essential oils. And I will list all this in the comments, I think, because it'll just make it easier. But here are the essential oils that I believe help directly with the central nervous system. Rose geranium, eucalyptus, palo santo, frankincense, benzoin, lemon balm, lavender, ylang ylang, jasmine, rose, valerian root, orange, cedarwood, grapefruit, cypress, juniper, patchouli, clary sage, neroli, niaouli, Niaouli, and lemon. Now, two other ones, peppermint and chamomile, although they can be stimulating. Chamomile is a nervine, so if you have too much of it, it can be overstimulating. It is for me, personally. But a tiny bit of peppermint and a tiny bit of chamomile is also very lovely. So, crystals, okay? So these are things that you guys might have in your environment right now. You don't have to go out and buy anything. You can just grab it from, you got it. It's right there because you've already been doing this. But it's just a little reminder, really, to say, oh, right, I have these things. Like, okay, let me use these. So, howlite, which is white turquoise, and turquoise. Amethyst, hematite, shungite, black tourmaline, smoky quartz, bloodstone with circulation, jaspers, any kind of jasper, amber, rose quartz, and copper. So those are the crystals that I would recommend during this time to bring ourselves back into balance. Okay, so I will list these in the comments. That'll make it so much easier because you might need to listen to this again because there's a lot of information that I'm pouring out. And I was going to do a blog about it, but then I was like, no, this is a live situation where I just really want to get this information out right now and I'm finding that that's a better option. So, a tool that is really good for creating your energetic matrix, your energetic sphere, your sacred bubble. Okay? I imagine myself in an egg, which is actually, it's really more of a sphere. It's a round sphere, okay? And it is like this gossamer sort of shield field. The first thing I do, though, is I cast a circle of white light clockwise 3 times around myself, okay? Clockwise. And the reason I do that is because I feel like if I'm in my tube of light and then I establish my sphere, I'm more likely to be, clear. There will be densities that fly off when we do this, and we would just release them into the tube of light for them to be transmuted into divine light and love and go back to source. So with that intention, you just release them back to source. So without getting into too much detail. So the golden sphere, once you establish sort of a gossamer shield after you have your tube of light, then you can create a golden sphere of light from your center of your heart. And if you watched my video a couple days ago, we did this undulating heartbeat thing where we brought it out into our field and into our hands, where you create this sphere of light around you. So the golden sphere of light goes inside of this bubble, okay? You create a solid golden sphere of light, which is impenetrable to negative forces. And then on the outside of that, there's a couple things you can do. One is you can create a indigo sphere for psychic protection. However, it's really more like this color, blue, okay? Cobalt. And when you create that sphere, remember it has to be a little bit permeable, only because, not permeable in terms of the protection of it, but permeable in terms of allowing abundance and flow to come in. So you don't want to completely seal yourself off from receiving. You want to just be able to have that shield. Now the other thing that helps with that, so you have the golden sphere of light, the indigo sphere, and then you can create a rainbow sphere of light around that. And what that rainbow sphere of light does, it's like a blending cloak. And what that does is that's like your magical orb. That's your sacred bubble. And in that rainbow sphere of light, you can receive all the light that you need to receive. You can release energy down into the earth. There's all kinds of things you can do, but you've got this sphere around you that helps with, any kind of energy being directed towards you that may be negative. It kind of just like softly bounces it off. And then if you want a little bit of nurturing and you feel like you really need some nurturing, you can utilize the golden pink ray of divine love. So calling that down from the mother, the mother aspect of God, goddess, all that is, you call and ask the divine mother to bring and pour down upon you the golden pink ray of divine love, and allow that to come inside of the gold and just wash through. One other aspect you can utilize is asking Gaia to bring up her golden violet flame from this crystalline core of the earth. Bring it up and imbue your tube of light with violet flame, and that will excuse me, that's funny. That will clear out any dross, just like it just did, and it'll clear out anything that's in your field that you may not want there, that's unwanted. Now, a couple other solution-oriented things. Dream shielding, okay? Dream shielding is very important, and I will leave a link to that from ascensionhelp.com in the comments as well. Cutting cords. Cutting cords with toxic people and unhealthy relationships. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about. And that basically is, using your sword of light in whichever hand it's in from source. And you draw that energy in and into your hand, and you cut all the cords and send them back with love. And, thank you for your service. Thank you. I'm complete. I love you. Thank you. you know, I release you with love and light, you know, and you literally send back the energy of those cords back to the person and ask them, this is all, you know, an energetic state, not physical necessarily, but you ask them to return your energy to you, because there are energetically draining people and they tend to want to, you know, take your energy. So you have to decide if that's something that you really want or not. So with that, I've given you a ton of information about mapping out your self-care system. I've given some ideas that I think that I've used personally that have helped me, and I just kind of wanted to share that with all of you, and hopefully that is beneficial at this time. And I'm sending you lots of love and blessings, and have a beautiful day.